Hello chums, and welcome to the Fastest Lap series, where I'll be putting all of the road cars in Gran Turismo 7 to the test. Each car will be scrutinised in a few ways, once with no upgrades and comfort soft tyres, once with all upgrades and racing soft tyres, and once with an engine swap if the option is available. All cars are tested on a PlayStation 5 controller because I am an unsophisticated proletarian, and I drive each car with no driver assists except for ABS. I am by no means a professional, but I can usually complete a lap without binning my car into a wall, so hopefully I can do each car justice. The chosen test track is the Nurburgring Sprint course for its variety of corner types, along with a few longer straights to test every aspect of a car's performance. Let's see today's contender. Today we have our first electric vehicle, and instead of being predictable and featuring a Tesla, I've instead gone for the most recent EV addition to the game, the Hyundai IONIQ 5N, a very large hatchback with 650 horsepower. This is where I would usually make a woefully inaccurate and probably slightly inappropriate generalization about the type of person who drives this car, but I've never even seen an IONIQ 5N here in the UK, so I'm going to make a blind stab instead. The Hyundai IONIQ 5N is driven by someone who wants people to think they are cool and self-aware, but also wants people to not see the birdwatching gear that they've got in the back of the car. The basis of the Hyundai IONIQ 5N is, unsurprisingly, the IONIQ 5. The styling for the IONIQ 5 is apparently inspired by the Hyundai Pony. I can't personally see the resemblance, but sure. To my eye, it looks like a hatchback from the future, if it was inflated by about 3 sizes. If this exact car was shrunken to the size of a Volkswagen Golf, I'd actually probably quite like it. The car was designed to take the fight to Tesla, so much like your garden variety Tesla, it features multiple battery capacities for different ranges and price points, and it has a storage compartment under the bonnet, or a frunk for viewers on the other side of the Atlantic. For the sporty N model, Hyundai had their work cut out. Turning a 2-ton SUV into a performance car is easier said than done. One of the primary targets for the sporty variant was Tesla's performance models. So, how do we make an electric car faster? Add more electric. With the extra batteries, the car now weighed another 200 kilograms on top of the standard model, but power increased from 325 horsepower to 600. There was also a boost mode that increases power by another 40 horsepower. During the production process, the body gained over 40 extra welding points, similar to the original Honda Civic Type R. The 5N also received more adhesives, as well as reinforced subframes and a reinforced battery mount, all in the name of increasing the rigidity of the car's structure, which translates to better handling. The front end was revised to allow more airflow to the new cooling system, which now occupied the space under the bonnet. This improved cooling allows the 5N to be used at its maximum potential for longer than previous Tesla performance models, which had a reputation for overheating, which would then result in the car cutting its power to cool down. The Hyundai IONIQ 5N also received some very aggressive bodywork with flared wheel arches, wider wheels and tyres, vents, ducts, splitters, canons, machine guns, rear wings and a rear diffuser. To cap it off, Hyundai tried to make the car appeal to those insufferable young people like me who have the attention span of a housefly. To do this, the car was fitted with some speakers. These would replicate the sound of a real car, or a spaceship depending on how childish you are. It could also replicate gear shifts by very briefly cutting power in between simulated shifts, though this isn't present in Gran Turismo. The addition of this fake car sound got a mixed reception. Some people thought it was childish, pointless, fake, or stupid, and those people are boring. Other people thought it was cool because their SUV can now be made to sound like a fighter jet. I personally just think it's funny. A manufacturer trying to make its cars more interesting in a sea of monochrome appliances, Toyota CHR, is no bad thing. Still, we're not just here to talk about the UFO noises, the fancy cooling system, the boost mode, the spoilers and the cannons, or even the machine guns. We are here to see how fast a collection of pixels will go around a racetrack. Like all unmodified cars in this series, this car has no upgrades that affect the performance in any way, and it is fitted with Comfort Soft tyres. The reason all cars are fitted with Comfort Soft tyres is because they will give a very rough approximation of how the real-life car will perform on some fancy Michelin Pilot Sport tyres, which are some of the better summer tyres on the market, which are road-biased but can handle a track day. While the sports tyres would be faster, there aren't many cars on the street rolling around on Cup 2R tyres. The brakes on this car do not work. Granted, trying to stop a 2.2 ton electric car with 650 horsepower is a bit like trying to stop Piers Morgan from running his pointless dirty mouth for more than 5 seconds. It doesn't really work. Still, once you're used to it, the IONIQ 5N presents a unique experience. At high speeds, the car will understeer, like the heavy four-wheel drive it is. At low speeds, it seems to send more power to the rear end, which kicks the tail out thanks to the gobs of torque. While it's fun, it loses time. So keeping the car smooth enough for a hot lap is like threading the needle. Since there is a boost button available, I also have it pressed for the duration of the lap, which does make a small difference to the acceleration. It gets a time of 1 minute 40.523, making it our fastest road car so far. It would have been predictable if I applied the Pikes Peak livery to this car. Instead, I went for a Hankook Tyres livery to go with the batshit bodywork additions. Electric cars have a unique affliction when it comes to upgrades. There sort of aren't any. We get the option for an ECU upgrade that adds a whopping 30 horsepower or so, meaning our straight line speed isn't going to change much. We also don't get any differential or transmission upgrades. That more or less leaves us with suspension, tyres and weight loss. Thankfully, the car has lost weight equivalent to an entire classic Alpine A110, so we should still see an improvement. Like all upgraded cars, this one is on racing soft tyres and has every performance upgrade available, including the wide body, aftermarket wheels, any visual options that add downforce, and the body rigidity increase. For the setup, we don't particularly have many options. Anti-roll bars and natural frequency are both stiff to reduce body roll as usual. I have set both of them low at the rear, which should increase rear end grip to prevent the back end stepping loose, as we have just seen with the unmodified car. I have then given the car some rear toe out to try and prevent any power understeer the previous adjustments may cause. While this isn't necessarily the fastest setup you could apply to this car, I found it to be the smoothest and the most predictable, which is typically my priority. Without any differential or transmission settings to adjust, there's not a huge amount else to do here. Well, the brakes are noticeably improved, but they are still quite a bit weaker than other fully upgraded cars of a similar age. Otherwise, the IONIQ 5N is easy to drive thanks to a comparatively high weight, low power, and four-wheel drive traction. It gets a time of 1 minute 25.090. That time places it half a second ahead of the Audi TT and the rotary-swapped Mazda NA Roadster. However, it's also nearly a second behind the Ford Mustang GT and the Maserati Gran Turismo, so there's not really anything we can compare it to directly quite yet. Meanwhile, the stock car is in the same situation, being 2 seconds ahead of the nearest road car, but 4 seconds behind the Impreza rally car. It'll be interesting to see which of the game's sports or supercars will compare to the Hyundai. As electric cars go, the Hyundai IONIQ 5N has some of the best visual customization available, as well as a semi-interesting sound thanks to the weird speaker thing. The downside is that the brakes are some of the worst I've ever seen, and it's not available to use in many of Gran Turismo's career mode events. It can be fun to throw around on sports tyres though. Whether you buy it is up to you. So, that was the first electric car in the Fastest Lap series. Tune in next time to see another request in the form of a four-wheel drive rallying legend. If you have any requests for cars you want to see tested sooner, please comment down below. Thank you very much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video I would be very grateful for your subscription. Take care now, and ta-ra.